Hey guys, welcome to the Rusty Beauties garage again. And today we start rebuilding of another engine that is a TR6 engine. I have it right here. So that's how it came to me, together with the transmission and everything that belongs to it. We don't know much about the engine other than the fact that it has very low compression. It's below 100 psi on all the cylinders. I think it's about 90. So we're gonna take it apart and we're gonna assess and we'll see what's going on, because apparently the car that it came from has a very low mileage, so it might be just re-ringing and changing seals and gaskets, but we will see about that. Might be a stuck valve, might be a stuck ring somewhere, but anyways, we're gonna take it apart completely and we're gonna assess it. And since I've done multiple engine rebuilds on my channel, I'm not gonna show this one in way too much detail. I mean, I'm gonna turn on, okay, somebody's already fixing it. So I'm gonna turn on the time-lapse mode and I'm gonna disassemble it, and then we're gonna assess the parts together and see what's needed, whether it needs to be machined or it's just gonna be replacing parts and stuff like that. Anyways, if you want to see a more detailed engine rebuild, I recommend watching my 1975 TR6 series or my 1974. In both these series we have a complete engine rebuild in a lot of detail. I'm still gonna show the most important parts here. I'm not gonna skip anything, but disassembling, for example, I'm not gonna show it in detail. I'm gonna just turn the time-lapse mode and then we're gonna look at the parts on the bench. So let's get crack-a-lacking. All right, so we have lots of parts taken apart, or taken off the engine. All the external parts, as I call them. So when I strip the engine, I take all the external parts out, including the bolts from the seal carrier, all covers, everywhere. So everything is taken out, and I put these bolts in one container here. So we're gonna clean them, and we know that this is for all the external parts. Now for all the internal parts, I started a new container, and this is for everything that's undercover. So the rocker shaft here, we just took off the bolts that were inside here, this cover and everything. So now I'm ready to start taking the head off, and I took the bottom cover as well, the oil pan. So we're gonna start disassembling the bottom end after, but first we're gonna take the head off. And as you may know, this is sometimes a tricky process because the head gets stuck there. So I'll show you what I do when I take it out. When I'm on an engine stand, it's easy. So as you can see, I took out the bolts from the head and I started from outside. I loosened in reverse pattern from what this is in the manual for assembling it. So for assembling, you start from the center and then you go in a spiral until you reach the end. So I did this opposite now. I started from the end and I loosened them one by one until we reach the center. But as you can see, the last four here and here are still, the nuts are still there. I just made space for the head to come out a little bit. And in my previous engine rebuild, I was wondering where these longer studs go. Well, here, one goes here, one goes at the end. I don't know why they're longer, but I don't know where to put these now because I filmed it. Okay, let's try to remove the head now. Okay. So we're gonna put it upside down with a soft hammer. This is lead. We're gonna start hammering wherever we can to see if it is gonna come down or not. Doesn't look like it's moving. Then we're gonna try with a soft hammer and not so soft hammer. Okay, it's split. This end split. I guess now we can put it sideways. And now as it is sideways, we can remove these bolts and we can keep trying to pull it out without fighting the gravity too much anyways. When you look at the gasket, it can tell you a story here. If there was a problem somewhere, which I don't think there was, but if it was leaking somewhere, you would be able to see it here. Alright, so now we're gonna start removing the connecting rods together with the pistons one by one. But before we do that, we're gonna do two things. We wanna make sure that the cups are in the right orientation, and we have reference here for when we're gonna be assembling it. I'm sorry, I'm mumbling, but I just came home from dentist and half of my face is still frozen, so I'm gonna try to talk as less as possible. Anyway, so you see the numbers here on the cups. We have one here, and here on the block it's stamped one as well. So we're looking to see if they are in the correct orientation, because if the cup is upside down, it might be in the right place, but it might be in the wrong orientation. Everything looks fine here, so that's number 2, and number 2 here, number 3, and number 3 here, number 4, and here number 4 is hard to read, but it is there, it's correct. So everything is perfect. The connecting rods are number 2. They should have numbers here. So you can see here number 2, and number 5. I don't see it. Yeah, kind of says 5. So let's see the next ones. Which ones are the next one? These 2. 3. Honestly, I don't see it very well, but yeah, it says 4. And then number 1 and number 6. Do you see it? Yeah, okay. So we're looking to see if everything is marked, so we have reference, which normally it is marked from the factory, but just in case we're double checking, and also to know if everything was assembled correctly the last time this engine was disassembled, if it was disassembled anyways. And the other thing that we want to check is the end play. So we're gonna see if we have a lot of end play here, so we know what bearings to order. And I'm not gonna go crazy. I'm gonna put you on the tripod. Yeah, there's a lot of end play here. I'm not even gonna put the, you see that? I'm not even gonna put the dial gauge. That's a lot, so needs to be between 6 and 8 thou. That's a lot more, I can tell. we'll see what the bearings look like, the thrust washers, and if they are worn, that would be the reason why this is like that. If they are not worn and we have this end plate, this means that we're gonna have to order the next size of thrust washers, which is 5 over. So now we can take everything apart, and then we're gonna assess everything on the table. Now that all the tappets are taken out, we can take out the camshaft gently. You can already tell here number 2 is bad, like really badly worn. It's not good. And you can tell that by the tappet, but we're gonna look at it later. Alright, so all the connecting rods are out. The bearings were in a pretty good shape and they are 20 over, so this engine has been rebuilt at some point. We will see what the pistons say. We don't know about that. The crankshaft doesn't look bad, so it looks like it's been machined properly and hasn't been run for a long time after that. So I don't see any scratches, but again, we're gonna inspect it further when it's on the bench. However, look at that. There's a lot of momentum here, which, I don't know, I thought it should be a little bit less. Anyways, let's take out the main bearing cups and we're gonna take out the crank. Wow, these are over torqued, I think. That's a lot of torque. I think the torque here should be about 60 pounds, 65, if I'm not mistaken. But that's a lot more than that. Maybe somebody tried to compensate some play in the bearings with torquing. I don't know. That's a lot. Oh my god, that's crazy. Okay. Yeah, these bearings are new too. We're gonna change them, of course, but maybe we don't need to machine the shaft. So what does it say here? Can't really see. 20 over. So we have 20 over main bearings and 20 over connecting rod bearings. Alright, so everything is disassembled and on the bench. Well, only the rocker shaft is not disassembled, but I'm gonna disassemble that as well. But everything is on the bench, and now let's quickly assess everything just visually and see if anything needs attention. And then later we're gonna measure everything and we're gonna see if we need to machine, which I don't believe we will need. I think we're gonna get lucky here because it looks like the engine has been rebuilt kind of professionally. I think a machine shop rebuilt the head and bored the cylinders, but whoever assembled it after that didn't do a good job, because I'll show you what they put in. The camshaft is really bad in some of the tappets. Look at this. But anyways, we're gonna go to that later. I don't think the engine ran a lot after it was rebuilt, but it wasn't put together properly, I guess. I don't know, we will see. So I looked at the cylinders quickly, and they don't have any ridge here. This is just discoloration. There's no ridge, and the pistons are 20 over, so obviously the cylinders have been machined. We will measure and see, but I'm hoping that with a little bit of honing or deglazing and honing, and we're gonna be able to just re-ring this. The low compression though is something that is really interesting for me. Why it was low compression? Because it looks like it's been rebuilt recently, like mileage wise it was not that far ago. So that's what the cylinders look like. Very, very shiny, no scratches at all. So measurements we will see later. What else? So let's start top to bottom. So the rocker shaft, I'm gonna have to take apart. We can't tell if it is in a good shape or not until I take it apart, but you can kind of get an idea about the condition by sliding the rockers back and forth. So if they slide nicely, probably you don't have a problem with them. You see, this one slides nicely, but this one, for example, look at that. It is very rough. So maybe we have a problem with this one. And there was another one that I tried. Anyways, I think we're gonna disassemble it anyways, and we will see. The head, like I said, I think it's been machined. I think all the valves are new. That's what I think. Let's see. They don't seem to have a lot of play. Yeah, barely have any play, which is good. Yeah, we can measure it later, but I'm pretty sure they're good. But barely any of them are nice and shiny here. I don't see any damages. We're gonna clean them and we will see. But the seats, some of them look bad, especially on the exhaust. So look at this one, for example. Looks like it is deep. What is that? 2, 4, 6, number 8. So that's this one. Or that's carbon. I don't know, we can't tell until we clean it. So we have to clean that. But I don't see anything burnt for now. Now, you see, I showed you one of the tappets, and this is the other one, number 2. Like it's badly worn. And number 2 on the camshaft is also, number 2 lobe is pretty bad. You see here it is really bad. This, but this lobe is also worn. This lobe is also damaged. The other ones, this one too. Number 3 is bad. So unfortunately we're gonna need another camshaft, new or used, but we'll have to find something else. This one is no good. What else? Of course we're gonna change the tappets. The camshaft, like I said, looks good. No worn stuff, nothing. All the journals and pins look good. So we're gonna see what the measurements are gonna show. All pistons are new. looks like. They have pretty good carbon on top. Well, this one not too much. Some of them were like really covered in carbon, but they are new, which is good. They're 20 over. I cleaned this one and I checked. See, it says plus 20. And like I said, all the connecting rod bearings are 20 over. Is it upside down? Yeah. The main bearings are 20 over too. And they are in a very good shape. So, like I said, it's been rebuilt recently. But these, the thrust washers, don't seem to be in a bad shape, but we had a lot of play here. And this was, doesn't say on them anything, which I'm assuming they're the standard size. I think we're gonna order the 5 over and the standard ones, so we can have an option. And that's it for the internal parts. Then let's go through that box as well. Okay, so what do we have here? We have the sealing block, which hasn't been raped. The threads inside look good, because that's something that many times people over torque them and they kill the threads, but these look good. Here the same. The threads need to be, don't tell me that these threads are bad, because these threads, if they are bad, this seal carrier is not available anymore. No, they look good. This is what I'm telling you. This is an old timing gear. I'm pretty sure the chain was old. It was very loose when I took it apart. And I'm sure this is the old gear. Like, I never ever assemble an engine with the old timing mechanism. That's quite important to me. So these, we're gonna order new ones. This sleeve seen a better day, but it's not too bad. This keeper, that's for the camshaft keeper, doesn't have a ridge. Sometimes when you do this with your fingernail, you can feel a ridge, and if that's the case, you need a new keeper, but this one is good. Thermostat, they told me that the thermostat was changed, but I'm pretty sure this is an old thermostat, and it's not that expensive. We're gonna order a new one. Fuel pump, it's a fuel pump. This oil thrower is a little bit mangled. I think we're gonna order a new one. The oil pump is brand new, so that I've been told it's brand new, so we're gonna keep it. The distributor drive gear, pedestal, and everything. Oh, that's important. So this is the oil pressure release valve. So if the oil pump builds too much pressure, it pushes on this valve and overcomes the tension of this spring and releases a little bit of the pressure to go back into the oil pan. However, if the pressure on this spring is too low, then a lower oil pressure can overcome the valve, and even if you have a brand new oil pump, you can still have low pressure because this spring is low tension. So the spec for this spring is exactly 4 centimeters, and I measured it already, and it is 38 millimeters, 38.17. So it is a little bit shorter than what it should be, so we're gonna order a new one. It needs to be exactly 4 centimeters. So I think we went through everything here. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna clean the combustion chambers and the valves, and we're gonna look at them carefully, and then we're gonna have an idea what we need to order and what we don't need to order. Of course, we're gonna measure the camshaft and the cylinders, and probably we're gonna order new piston rings, because I don't see stack rings or anything. So I was kind of expecting to see a stack ring or stuck valve or something, because that low compression, I can't explain it in any other way, but all the rings are good. So what we can do is we can take out the rings and put them in the cylinders and see how much the gap is. Maybe these are the wrong rings, who knows, we will see. Let me start by cleaning the head and the valves. Alright, so I cleaned the head nicely, the valves as well, so they're all in a great shape. Why doesn't it focus? There you go. So they're all in a great shape, the valves, and the seats of some of them. So look at the intake seats. Actually, let me turn on my light. Okay, so with the light it's better, so you can see the intake. It's not too bad. Let's go another intake and another intake and another intake, another intake and another intake. Like, they look great. So like I said, the head has been rebuilt, but did you notice that I didn't show you any of the exhausts? Yeah, because look what they look like. That's crazy. So what do you think, that this is the top, is the sealing part? Well, no, actually here at the bottom, that's the part that seals. Like number one, you see number one, that's the intake of number two, sorry, the exhaust of number two, the exhaust of number three. That's crazy. So let me show you something. So that's number three, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, and we have the number three exhaust valve. If we put it in, you see where it goes? All the way down there. So what I found out is that this head, actually, let me flip it around. So this is an early head for early car, and I know by the fact that it doesn't have the port here for the evap system, whatever. You know how you have a port here that connects to your intake. Actually, the intake has the port here, and this used to go, so this used to go and connect to this port, because I think this is an engine from a late car, but at some point they changed the head. So this is a head from an early car, and there's a difference in the size of the exhaust valves. So let me show you. So if you come here to the Most Motors website, which I actually use as a manual many times, when I need information I just come here and check what I need. So if you come to the exhaust valve here and you open it, it shows you for TR250 and early TR6, the exhaust valve used to be 1.25, and for the late ones it became smaller. So after 73 they made it 1.195. So what we see here is that we have an early head which requires the bigger valve, but our valves are 0. But our valves are 1.193. So we have the small valves on a head that requires a bigger valve. So this is the source of our low compression. The exhaust valves were not sealing properly. So we have a solution to that. So I don't think we need to buy the early valve and machine it again, because these valves go way too deep. I don't think we have enough room there to machine it. But this is a perfect opportunity to actually install hardened valve seats for the exhaust valves. So our mystery is solved. That was really interesting for me, how a rebuilt engine would have low compression. Well, that's how. Well, also there are other reasons why, but not in this case. So in a friend of mine had an engine rebuilt professionally somewhere, and instead of, it was a TR6 engine, and they needed to change the crankshaft for whatever reason. So instead of a TR6 crankshaft, they put a GT6 crankshaft, which has much smaller stroke. So his pistons weren't going all the way up and down. So the engine was running, but it had very low compression. And it turned out that they installed the wrong crankshaft on it. Anyway, so there are other things that are possible, but here I think that's our problem. So let's measure everything else and make sure that the crankshaft and the block don't require machining. And then we can order piston rings, we can order new bearings, we can order seats, and yeah, we don't need way too much parts, actually. That's great. Okay, so I measured the crank pins and the journals, and I also measured the cylinders, but for the crank pins and the journals, and there's not much to be explained, I used the micrometer like this one, and I had a small one for the pins, and I recorded everything. But for the cylinders I wanted to show you, and even though I show it every time I rebuild engines, I want to show you again what is my procedure, because I appreciate that some of you haven't seen my previous rebuilding videos. So what I did is, so I checked the spec, and the spec for the cylinders for factory spec is 2.94, so 2.9400. And since we know that it's been machined to 20 over, I adjusted my gauge here, my micrometer, to 2.9600, because the factory is 2.9400, but 20 over comes to 2.9600. Then I adjusted my bore measuring gauge. Let me show you what I did. So I'm not going to explain how this works, just so you know. I adjusted it in such a way that when I put it here and we are at 2.9600, here it shows me 0. Do you see that? If we are bigger than that, the needle is gonna go up, you know? But when we are at the exact size, it shows me 0. And then I went to the engine and I measured inside. So as you can see here, when you put it in, it shows me, for example, here, it shows me, I don't know if you see it very well, I hope you do. It shows me 3 increments, and one of my increments is 5 10,000ths of an inch, 0.0005. So 3 increments here is 15 10,000ths of an inch, or tau and a half. So we have to add these 15 10,000ths to the 2.9600, because we know that when it's 0, it's 2.9600, plus these 15 10,000ths, it becomes 2.9615. And that's how I measure. But I don't just measure in one spot, I measure in 3 levels of the cylinder and in 3 different directions. So my first direction is always this. Let's say now we're measuring the top. So we're measuring the top this way, then we're measuring the top clockwise. I turn it by 60 degrees clockwise, and then I turn it by 60 degrees counterclockwise. And these are my 3 different positions that I measure. And when I compare these 3, I can tell whether this is circle or it's an oval. And then I do the same somewhere in the middle of the cylinder, like depth-wise. Then I do my second position, my third position, and then I go at the bottom and I do the same. First position, second position, and third position. And by comparing the same position in the 3 different levels, I can tell whether this cylinder is tapered or is perfect cylinder. So 9 measurements per cylinder, and with all that information, let me show you now how I calculate. So that's for my first cylinder. So forget about this. This is my second cylinder. But for my first cylinder, I have first, second, and third position, and top, center, and bottom. My 2 is adjusted to 2.9600. So my top level in first position, I have 15 10,000ths more than 2.9600. In second position, I have 16 10,000, and in third position, I have 15 10,000ths. And then the center and the bottom the same, 16, 14, 11, 11, 11. So now when I compare all three measurements on the top level, first, second, and third, I can tell that the smallest one is 15, the biggest one is 16. This means that I have 0.0001 10,000ths of an inch out of round. Here it is the same, 16, 14, 11, so we have 5 10,000ths difference between the smallest one and the biggest one. Oops. And here we have 0 because we have all 11. So our biggest out of round is 5 10,000ths of an inch. So we're gonna call it, where should we write it? Here. Out of round equals 0.0005 10,000ths of an inch. Then for the taper, we compare them this way, 15, 16, 11. So we have between 11 and 16, we have 5 10,000ths of an inch taper here, 0.0005. Here we have 16 is 14, 11, so again 0.0005. And here we have, I should have put that lower. Anyways, here we have between 15 and 11, we have 4.0004 10,000ths of an inch. Our biggest out of round out of the three is 5, 0.0005 10,000ths of an inch taper. And our biggest measurement out of all of them is 16. Here and here we have 16 tau. So we add that to our measurement there. So overall measurement, our biggest measurement on this cylinder is 2.9616 inches. So that's the information that we need from this cylinder. So I'm gonna do the same for here, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth and sixth. And I'm gonna transfer it to my first page, in which I also put the journals, the pins, and I'm gonna transfer the result from all of them here, and then we're gonna see what we're gonna do with that information. So I did the same calculation for all the other cylinders, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Here I became lazy, and instead of 0.0001 I wrote just 1, 2, 3, etc. And I transferred all the information here. So the spec is 2.9400, and like we said, if we do 20 over, that's gonna be 2.9600. So we're looking to be as close as possible to this number. And we are 9616, 9615, 16, 16, and 17. So this means we are tau and a half in average bigger than this number. So tau and a half for me it's acceptable. Anywhere underneath 2 tau for me is acceptable. So that's how they machined it, and that's how it is. So the cylinders are all okay. And let's go back to the crankshaft now. So the journals, the spec, the factory spec is 2.3110 to 2.3115. That's how it came out of the factory. Now they've been machined to 20 over, which means now they are smaller because they've been machined. Now the cylinders, when you machine the cylinders, they become bigger, but when you machine the crankshaft, it becomes smaller. So we need to subtract 20 tau from here. So we're looking at a number between 2.2910, right? So because 3110 minus 200 is 2910, right? So 2910 to 2.2915. And for the pins, the spec is 1.8750 to 1.8755. So now again we have to subtract 20 tau because that's what they've been machined to. So we're looking for a number between 1.8550 and 1.8555. So this is what we're looking for. So we have between 910 and 915. We have 919, 912, 916, 916. So this is 1 10,000 bigger, this is 1 10,000 bigger, this is 4 10,000 bigger of this, which is totally acceptable. And the pins the same. Sorry, I missed a zero here. So 550 to 555, we have 547, 549, 50, 50, 48, 41. So here we are a little bit smaller. We are like 3 10,000 smaller than the spec, and here we are a little bit bigger. So here we are 4 10,000 bigger than the spec, which is gonna make it a little bit tighter, but for 4 10,000ths of an inch, it's perfect. So our journals and our pins and our cylinders are perfect. We don't need to machine anything. We just need new bearings, new rings. We don't want to risk it. We don't know what bearings these are. We're just gonna buy new bearings. The head, like we said, we need to machine, and we need to install hardened seats. So with all this information now that we measured and what I observed here, I can go and sit on the computer and order parts, which is great. So as soon as we get them back, we can start assembling. In the meantime, we're gonna have to wait for the seats to come so we can send the head for machining. So that's a bummer, but whatever. So anyways, I think that's more than enough for one video. I tried to make a condensed version. Normally for this probably it's gonna take me 3 or 4 videos for what I've done so far on the engine, but this time, like I said, I did this assembly very briefly for you and just highlighted the most important parts. Maybe when I'm assembling it, I'm gonna take more time and I'm gonna shoot in more details, but I feel like I have way too many engine rebuild series. So if you are interested and you want to see it in more detail, you can go and watch my 1975 TR6 engine rebuild, or even the 1974 TR6 engine rebuild. I have playlists for that in my on my channel, so you can just go to the main page of my channel, click on playlists and select 1974 TR6 or 1975 TR6, and you're gonna see there I have videos with more detailed information about how I disassembled it and what I've done. So that's gonna be it for today, guys. Thanks for watching, thanks for commenting and subscribing, thanks for sharing, thanks for supporting me, and for everything that you do for me. It's highly appreciated. If you're not a patron yet and you wish to become one, you can follow the link in the description to my Patreon page, and there you can see how you can become a patron. But also there are many people who choose not to be patrons for one reason or another, and they're looking for a one-time donation, and there is a way for that as well. You can send a PayPal transfer to elin.yakov@rustybeauties.com, or if you're in Canada, you can send me an e-transfer. But again, you don't need to do any of that in order to have full access to all my videos on my YouTube channel, or to the group in Facebook called Rusty Beauties. All that is free, and you don't need to financially support me to have full access. The only reason why you would consider supporting me would be because you feel like saying thank you, Elin, for your videos, or you just feel like it. Other than that, you don't need to. So again, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.